is up, sexy people? It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Baltimore Hardcore crew, End It. The band's new album, Wrong Side of Heaven, will be released on August 29th via Flatspot Records. So, End It is telling it like it is on their debut album, Wrong Side of Heaven. The hardcore band has built a reputation through being unapologetically outspoken, playing fast, ripping songs and putting on an electrifying live show. Now they're ready to enter the next era. Formed in 2017, End It came out strong with the release of their self-titled EP the same year they started, and followed up with the 2020 One-Way Track EP. In the summer of 2022, the band took the hardcore world by storm with their Unpleasant Living EP, solidifying the Baltimore outfit as one of the most exciting acts in the genre. Following the release, End It embarked on a packed touring schedule across North America and Europe, playing alongside No Warning, Terror, Cold World, Drain, Speed, Angel Dust, Scowl, and many more. No matter where they are or what they're doing, End It is true to keeping things authentically them, and that shines through on the forthcoming Wrong Side of Heaven. Entering Salad Days Studios with renowned producer Brian McTernan, who has worked with Turnstile, Snapcase, and Hot Water Music, the band came in with a few demos and wrote the majority of the album during the 2-month recording process in early 2025. Taking direction from classic hardcore, thrash, and soul music, End It has crafted a 15-song magnum opus centered on spreading awareness of the change that's coming to Americans, personal growth, and maintaining the ethics and integrity of hardcore. While no one can predict the future, End It has created an album that will assuredly stand the test of time, will assuredly stand the test of these uncertain times with Wrong Side of Heaven. So, another debut album in 2025.
Another debut hardcore album. What is that like? Can I just why do you think, as someone that was in a hardcore band at one time in your life and an aficionado of the old hardcore genre, why do you think that bands are, and I don't want to give away too much here, nailing their debuts at the moment? Like coming out just swinging for the fences. Like I don't know if it's just me or if we're being catered to because your vetting procedure is strict, but a lot of hardcore bands we've heard of late are essentially new bands, and their debuts feel like an album 4 or 5. It's just nuts.
I think a lot of bands have raised the bar with hardcore, to be honest, recently. So I think a lot of new bands that are coming out have those bands as kind of inspiration to kind of pull from. So I feel like all these new bands that are coming out are trying to outdo that stuff that's coming out, over the last few years. And there's been some ridiculously good hardcore albums out over the last 5 years. But it just seems to be like every new one that comes out is just like that consistency is just right up there. Also love the fact, short back catalogue, Duncan. Nice. 3 EPs.
You will have rinsed them, I imagine.
I fucking love it, Duncan.
How does is there a natural progression into this, or is there a marked jump between what they started with and where they've ended up?
Yeah, I mean, you can hear the progression. The EPs are cool. I think One Way Track was probably my favourite out of the 3, which I think was the second one. However, the production on the last EP, Unpleasant Living, was probably my favourite in terms of the kind of sound they had, which was like a little bit kind of dirtier. But yeah, very good. You can hear the first one is quite raw, but you can hear it progressively get better as the releases came out. This release, this is probably the most kind of, I want to say produced sound they've had, without it sounding like an overly clean and polished sounding album. It's still got a very hard metallic edge to it, that delivers these songs like a steel boot to the nuts. However, I'm gonna be slightly critical.
I love it when you're critical of hardcore, because it's always of something that I have no way to being critical of. So I'm like, I really like this. It's really great. And Dave's like, but did you hear the mess up that they made with the phalange? And I'm like, what? You're like, exactly, Duncan. Exactly.
Yeah, this is it's probably a personal thing. But I don't know what it is, but I find the drums on this to be very upfront. Like
you've been replaced by someone. Are you moaning about are you basically moaning to me about drums being too high in the mix?
Yes.
You, the man that advocates for drums to be high in the mix.
When that first track kicks in, the snare and the kick drum, like I almost kind of winced the first time it happened. Like they're like eyeball popping, like the snare and the kick. And my first reaction was, oof, that's like quite dominant in the mix. Like I was feeling like maybe could have just reined that in just a tiny bit. It was a little bit distracting for me initially. On the other hand, the drums are very audible. Like you will not miss anything that the drummer is doing on this album because they are clear as fuck on this album. Yeah, that was just the first thing that kind of came to mind. I was like, all right, okay, right, but we'll continue on here. And like the album itself is like a real like no frills like hardcore album. This is like if you are over the last 5 years, if you've been digging bands like Jivebomb and Gel and Regulate or Buggin, like then I'm sure like End It will definitely fit into that kind of group where, you know, this will appeal to your tastes. And everything about Wrong Side of Heaven pretty much fits the formula when it comes to like a hardcore album. It's short, it's 22 minutes long, it's like 15 songs. So like, yeah, as you'll imagine, short songs, bar one really. And it goes like pretty hard, like from start to finish. They kind of light the fuse on the opening title track and they just keep it burning for 22 minutes. Like it's fast, it's like quick movements, punchy, but there's like still, you know, there's those kind of well-placed moments of like halftime grooves or like switch ups into different rhythmical ideas to keep you like kind of engaged and locked in. They don't like hold on to anything for too long that it becomes like repetitive. That the songs are barely long enough for them to do that, but they also know when to give you something, you know, with a little bit more of a hook, you know, something with a little bit more of a memorable moment, like they do on like Optical Delusions, for example, which has these like really like vicious kind of barn burner verses, but then they slide into something a little bit more melodic via kind of like guitar solo kind of transition, which was quite clever. I quite like that. My only kind of small kind of criticism when it comes to those moments.
What would it like?
Sorry,
this is all great. I love this. This is brilliant. My small criticism here.
When you ask me to talk hardcore, I'm gonna go right in deep.
This is what people like. Listen, like people tune in on hardcore reviews not to hear my uneducated, non fucking sensible palate go that they play a halftime. like you know what I mean? Tuesday, anyone? Like what they hear is like the nuance of Dave saying, I mean, in 1993, Propane, you released this gem, this B-side called This. Reminds me of that. But only the 5th second and the 7th second. Everything else doesn't remind me at all.
Yeah.
That's what to check out for, Dave. So what was your gripe here?
Maybe. Yeah, my only kind of small like criticism is it never really lasts long enough for me. Like I think like the vocal hook on Optical Illusions happens once and that's it. It's over. So as cool as like these like quick fire tracks are, there were occasions where I felt like, oh, maybe you could have just extended that just a wee touch. And I think it maybe would have left more of a kind of lasting impression if they had have just kind of maybe even repeated a chorus maybe twice or maybe 3 times maybe. And there were moments on the album where I felt like it kind of almost came to fruition. Like Anti-Colonial, for example, has this kind of like speed like kind of gang vocal kind of motif thing that happens that repeats throughout, which does start to like, you know, kind of penetrate a bit more, you know, as it, you know, repeats. And then there's obviously the one kind of anomaly of the album, which is Could You Love Me? which is very different to the rest of the album, right? It's more kind of punk rock with a proper like structure of verses and melodic choruses, and I was like, oh shit, right, here we go. This is a bit of a banger. Like, I'm quite enjoying this. It's got almost kind of like a little bit of a kind of Skindred type kind of character, like newer Skindred almost character to it. And then it wasn't until afterwards I realised it's not actually an End It song. It's in fact a cover of a Maximum Penalty song which came out in the mid-90s. And the cover is very good. Like, dare I say it, might be better than the original, but it kind of left me a little bit frustrated.
See, I've got to tell us because Drain did this, like on that last Drain album, where they have a cover as the penultimate song on the album, which does sound remarkably different to everything else in that album, and then they return with a big old hoof, a fucking hoof, Dave.
For me, it kind of highlighted the point that I've kind of made already, that they could easily incorporate more of this kind of almost this kind of style and that extended song length, add in more of a memorable hook, and I feel like it would completely elevate this album. The cover was actually one of my favorite moments of the release. So on one hand, the kind of like hand grenade approach of these kind of like sharp blasts, it works, it's cool, it's plenty of attitude, and like it'll transition or transfer to a live environment perfectly. On the other hand, I feel like the potential for bigger things is there for the taking, should they want it. I suppose it just depends on what they want to accomplish with the band going forward. They maybe don't see themselves as that type of band, which is fine, I respect that, but the fact they've added a cover to their debut album that has those elements, the band have also said that band is a huge influence to them, makes me believe that is not completely off the table. So I'm kind of conflicted a little bit. I did enjoy it though. Like, I do enjoy this album. It's 22 minutes. Like, it's a fucking easy listen.
Yeah.
It ticks a lot of boxes for me. You know, it's not the most groundbreaking of hardcore albums, but I feel like there is more in the tank here that has not been used yet. That's what I'm going to say. What do you think? I might be being hypercritical here, but what do you think?
I think that you need to sit down, shut up, and listen, you ignorant slut. I'm like, see, this is I don't come with the baggage you come with. Like I come in with this as someone who has a relatively unrefined hardcore palette. I imagine if we both had top 5 hardcore album lists, like yours would be like people would be legitimately going, this guy right here, this guy knows his shit, and they'd be looking at me and go, that Hot Topic. It's literally Duncan dresses up. We can tell it's the most like generic, obvious fucking BuzzFeed top 5 list we've seen in a long time. I know what I like. That's ultimately what I come up with. And with hardcore, it's always been interesting for me because I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore fan, but actually if you scrutinise what I listen to, notwithstanding the stuff that you put here, a lot of hardcore in my repertoire that I do check out. I don't have the same issue with the shorter song lengths that you do, right? But then I also agree that the moments where tracks are allowed to go a little bit longer and you get to hear something a little bit long form, specifically on those choruses, they have this, and it's introduced at the I think it's the end of Pale Horse, where they have this kind of old school metal kind of vocal thing. And when I heard that, I was like, is that like a guest vocalist that just come to do that? No, it's revisited throughout the album. And big chorus, it's fucking great. But they reserve it. They don't like overuse it. I actually love the tone of the lead vocalist's voice. Yeah. It's at a higher pitch register. Yeah. Not quite not loose high, but it's high pitched. But it cuts through, even though the drums are frontal in the mix. The vocals cut through with ease of that because of how high in the kind of register. Like it sits audibly clear because of that. Had it been mid-range, it would have been lost.
It's kind of like that Keonashi type thing where his 100%. Vocal was just like sits above everything.
It sits above everything else. You can do whatever you want there, but you're always going to hear that vocal.
Yeah.
I agree. The guitars at times could have used a little bit more of something to elevate them, or the drums taken back a smidge, but not to the point where, and I'm usually critical of the drum sound being too loud. It didn't bother me that much. If anything, it added a kind of flair of authenticity to the release that I kind of enjoyed. I think like this album is a blink and you miss it at times. I think songs fly by so quick. It's difficult to kind of the grasp. And what reminded me was of that last Blood Command album, where it has like 20 songs on it. And you listen to them, and a lot of them are like literally 40 to 50 second like stabs of aggression and anger. What Blood Command have that maybe Wrong Side of Heaven don't have, and this maybe underlies your point, is they do have a huge mix of 2.5 to 3.5 minute songs in there, which broaden out things before hitting you all the sharp, punchy things again. I love the cover on this. I'm kind of echoing you. I think it's one of those moments to stand out. But once again, I couldn't help but think of Drain, who did exactly the same thing on their previous album. And from the pre-release that they've released, there is a audible pop punk song, and it makes me think it might be a cover again. I might be wrong about that, and it might be one of their songs and they're experimenting more with it. But it does stand out as a bit of an oddity, but it does come as the second last track, and they do close it on Empire's Demise with oomph. You know, it's a mighty fine "this is the end of the album" track. I love the production overall. Like I say, minor gripes with maybe how loud the drums are, but nothing like Dave. But I think this has. We always say that debuts tend to be a band like giving you it all, right? Because they've been holding back for a while. They've finally got their opportunity. And album 2 tends to be a more honest album, even if that sometimes is a less interesting album. Album number 2 is when the band settles in and goes, right, with everything's at our system. Now we do the album for us. We've done the album that was the struggle. Now we do the album that is the continuation of the story. And maybe the following album for End It might be something that explores more that long form. I get why you would want that, and I wouldn't be against it at all. I think it'd be cool. I also don't think they need to be we have bands that do that. I think there is a space. We've got the amount of like hardcore savage punk bands we've listened to recently that have like basically like every track's under a minute and you're just screamed at for the full run length, and I kind of love that as well. I think there's a space for all that. I think in time will prove whether or not End It have just kind of really given you everything that they could out their system, and then they reset to see where they go on. Flatspot Records, I mean, it's a great home for them. They're like surrounded by incredible hardcore bands that I imagine they could be on umpteen tours with. The list that you read off of bands they've toured with is basically every band I would put them on tour with after listening to this album. So they're doing something right, but there is a market for this right now. Hardcore has seen an interest in, some would say it's been inevitable with back-to-back years of hardcore, like Dave has said. But I think there is now a clear, defined push of what audiences want, what fans want, and bands that are now there to cater to that sound with their own personality. And I think End It are just another example of that, where I imagine they could play this entire album and front to back live, and it would go down the fucking storm. With all the collective moments where the audience participate exactly where the band wants them to participate. They go quiet where they need to. They get off. It just felt like listening to this felt like the singer and the band were orchestrating an audience with moves. This is when you do this. This is when you do that. I kind of like that. It shows. That's what my remark at the beginning about when did hardcore bands become so confident on debuts. This to me feels like a band that are a couple of albums in and just like very comfortable with their sound. Well, time will tell. I think I may have enjoyed this a little bit more than you, but we'll not know until the grades.
Okie doke. So scores for the debut album from End It. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a good album. They are definitely on my radar for sure. Like, they have a lot of potential. I feel like they have it in them to do, like, to release something exceptional. And I'm hoping over time the songwriting develops to that place and all the pieces kind of come together. Production was good for the debut. For me, needs a little bit of volume refinement, I would say, for me personally. Yeah, I still enjoyed it. My like issues aside, I'm going to go 3.5 out of 5 on this one. Duncan, what are you thinking?
I've exactly called it. I'm a 4. I think this is really, really, really good. One to watch, definitely one to watch. I like you think that we are just we're just on the cusp of something that could go pretty fucking huge, pretty fucking quick.
Yeah, for sure. So, Wrong Side of Heaven is out on August 29th via Flatspot Records. Check out the links to the band, the pre-order, one of the singles. Check out, have a listen, see what you think. I'm happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is a review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.